You just turned 30, and the notification pops up on your screen at 5:12 p.m. on a Tuesday. Senior Director. You read the subject line twice before you actually open the email. Your base salary jumps from $115,000 to $138,000. The annual bonus target bumps up to 20%. There's also an equity package, $45,000 in restricted stock units vesting over 4 years. You take a screenshot and text it to your dad. He calls you 3 minutes later, his voice cracking just a little bit, telling you he always knew you'd make it. That 3-minute phone call hits you harder than the money. You go out to dinner that night. You order the expensive steak and a bottle of wine you'd normally scroll past. Because tonight, you feel like you've finally arrived. You wake up Wednesday morning with a slight hangover and a profound sense of relief. You think the finish line is in sight. You don't realize yet that you just crossed the starting line of a completely different race. The first 12 months in the new role are a blur of high-stakes execution. You manage a team of 8. You sit in glass-walled conference rooms watching how the executives above you operate. You quickly learn a harsh truth. The people who get promoted aren't the ones with the best ideas. They are the ones who make their directors look like geniuses in front of the board. You master this art. By 31, you're the go-to person for the messy, cross-departmental projects nobody else wants to touch. You deliver them flawlessly. You work late without complaining, because complaining is for the people who stay stagnant. By 32, your salary hits $160,000, but your savings rate is stuck at 12%. Not because you're irresponsible, but because your lifestyle expanded to perfectly match your income. You upgraded to a luxury apartment with a concierge because you wanted to save time on chores. You bought a high-end home gym membership you use twice a month. You bought a luxury sedan because the lease payment felt manageable. Every single purchase makes logical sense in isolation, but you never look at the total sum. Because looking at the total sum means admitting you're trapped. The first rule of the corporate middle class: lifestyle inflation isn't a lack of willpower. It's the exact mechanism the system uses to keep you compliant. The raise is designed to fund the lifestyle that requires the raise. You get promoted again at 33, VP of Operations, base $175,000. You're no longer doing the work. You're managing the people who do the work. The stress shifts from your hands to your nervous system. You sleep poorly. Your partner, Sarah, notices you checking emails during dinner. You promise to be more present, but then Q4 hits, and you're right back to answering Slack messages at the table. Your net worth sits at around $240,000. On paper, you are crushing it. In your head, you feel like you're winning. There is no fracture yet. The fracture happens 12 months later. At 34, your company is bought out by a massive private equity firm. By Friday, the new organizational chart drops. Your title survives. But you watch a guy named Marcus, a 12-year veteran with a mortgage and 2 kids in college, get escorted out of the building at 1 p.m. with a cardboard box. You don't say goodbye. It's against protocol. He sends a polite, heartbreaking goodbye email to the team that night. You stare at it for an hour. You realize the company gave him 2 months of severance for a dozen years of loyalty. He took it because he had no leverage. You do the math on your own 12-year horizon. The numbers make you physically sick. The second rule: a salary is just leased income. The landlord can terminate the lease on a random Tuesday with 0 warning. You knew this intellectually, but watching Marcus walk out with that box makes it visceral. You start reading different books, not leadership books, but books about equity, leverage, and ownership. You learn how private equity actually extracts value. You realize the people who bought your company pay half your tax rate on 10 times your income. You don't get angry. Anger is useless. You get strategic. At 35, you slash your personal expenses and double your savings rate. You downgrade your apartment. You turn your spare room into a command center. You start building a digital asset on weekends, a niche newsletter analyzing supply chain logistics for mid-market manufacturers. You write it on Saturday mornings. You send it out on Sundays. It makes $0 for 5 months. Then, a sponsor pays you $500. By month 10, it's $2,500. You don't tell your coworkers. You tell Sarah eventually when she asks why you're locked in the office every weekend. She just nods, waiting to see if it's a phase. The third rule: your salary pays for your weekdays. Your weekends determine if you'll ever be free. At 36, a brilliant peer named David, who practically built the department, gets passed over for a C-suite role. The job goes to an external hire from a rival firm. David handles it with grace. 6 weeks later, he's updating his LinkedIn. You watch this happen without blinking. The corporate ladder is a meritocracy about 50% of the time. Just enough to keep you hoping, but rigged enough to break your heart. Meanwhile, your newsletter hits $8,000 a month. You raise your ad rates. You learn a lesson your day job never taught you. When you own the asset, the upside is yours. When you work for the asset, the upside belongs to a shareholder you'll never meet. At 37, you make senior VP, base $220,000. Massive bonus target. Another huge stock grant. It's a massive win. But it feels different this time. You know the title is just golden handcuffs with a longer tether. It's not freedom. Your newsletter is now doing $14,000 a month. You hire a freelance writer named Elena in London for $2,000 a month. She's better at it than you are. You've crossed a threshold. You are now an employer. The fourth rule: employees pay taxes on their income, then live on what's left. Business owners live on the revenue and pay taxes on what's left. You can read that at 22, but you can't truly understand it until you see both sides of the ledger. At 38, the private equity owners announce another efficiency restructuring. Your role is realigned. It's a demotion disguised as a promotion. A consultant from New York flies in to tell you this via a rehearsed script. You go home that night. Sarah is cooking dinner. You tell her what happened. She puts down the knife and asks the question that's been hanging in the air for 2 years. How much is the newsletter making now? You tell her. $24,000 a month, net profit, after Elena, after software, after taxes. She does the mental math. Your side business, growing 30% a year, is now generating more take-home cash than your $220,000 corporate salary, especially when you factor in the tax advantages of a pass-through entity. She looks at you and asks, "Why are you still going to the office?" You start giving the standard excuses: the health insurance, the prestige, the vesting schedule, the identity, the story you tell your dad, but then you picture Marcus with his cardboard box. You realize the safety you're clinging to is an illusion. Sarah doesn't argue. She just finishes cooking. You eat in a quiet, heavy silence. It's the silence of a paradigm shifting in real time. At 39, you resign. You book a 15-minute meeting with your boss. You tell him cleanly. He's shocked. He asks if it's about the compensation. You say no. He asks what you're doing next. You tell him. He pauses and says, "I had no idea you were building that." You say, "That was the point." You leave on a Friday. There's a modest farewell card. You go home. You don't open your laptop all weekend. For the first time in a decade, your time belongs entirely to you. The fifth rule: the corporate ladder is a building you don't own. You can climb it for 30 years and still be a tenant. At 40, your net worth is $850,000. Your media company does $38,000 a month. You've hired 2 more contractors. You've launched a second publication. You didn't upgrade your car. You and Sarah are married now. You think about the 30-year-old version of yourself, the guy who celebrated with the expensive steak, the guy who felt so validated by his dad's phone call. You don't resent him. He played the game perfectly. He followed the rules. He optimized for the visible metrics. He was winning the game he was told to play. He just didn't know there was a second game. He didn't know the visible game, the one with the titles, the bonuses, the corner offices, has a hard ceiling set by someone else. And the invisible game, the one nobody in HR will ever tell you about, is the game where you build equity, where the ceiling doesn't exist. He spent his 30s winning the visible game. It cost him 10 years of his life. Right now, somewhere in a cubicle or a home office, a 30-year-old is staring at an email. It says, "Director." The base is $138,000. The bonus is 20%. There's an equity grant. He is texting his dad. He thinks this is the finish line. He's right. It is the beginning of something. He just doesn't know what yet. The clock started the second he opened that email. It always does.